and as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. I'm also a certified public secretary. I began my practice shortly after admission with Hamilton, Harrison, and Matthews, where I worked for about 2 years. Then in 1990, I joined Wetangle and Company Advocates, worked for about 2 years, then found my own practice in the style of Wasilo and Company Advocates, where I practiced up to 2004. And in 2004, Mr. Chairman, I joined the Nzoia Sugar Company as company secretary. I worked there for 5 years as company secretary. And in 2009, I became the managing director, where in which position I served 2 terms from 2009 up to 2015, when my second 3-year contract expired. And then I went back to the practice. But somewhere around 2022, January up to June, I was in Kisumu as a founding CEO of Kenya Sugar Manufacturers Association. I only did that stint for 6 months, and then I went back to practice, where I'm still practicing today. Now, Mr. Chairman and members, in terms of suitability, I've throughout my practice had a fervor for public interest litigation. I've done pro bono briefs, and as managing director, there are a number of achievements that I had. I don't know whether I can showcase them now, with your permission, Mr. Chairman.
Please proceed.
In 2009, I steered the company towards ISO, or rather International Standards Organization certification.
Number? You know that?
2008, I think 2015, I can't recall exactly, it's quite a while now, Mr. Chairman. In 2012, I had the company enter into branded sugar production. It had never done that since inception, somewhere around in 1988. So our sugar was then able to be sold as branded in supermarkets that had never been there before. I also steered it towards achievement of the super brand tag. That meant that it could compete very effectively with other products. Mr. Chairman, members, due to the facilitative effort I had with the other managers within the company, in the year 2012, we had a record production of 71,000 tons of sugar made for the year 2012, something that had never been attained since inception of the company. And in the year, we also made a profit of nearly 800 million shillings. The company had never declared any profit. In fact, it was insolvent. So, Mr. Chairman, that is Sol Simiyu Wasilo.
So how will you bring this as a valuable asset to IEBC?
When I joined the Nzoia Sugar, I was tagged an outsider because there are many others who had been there working there, and I was from legal practice. So at the time when I was promoted to the position of managing director, obviously the more seasoned managers thought it was unfair, I would say. But I was able to harness the capabilities of all the senior managers, the engineers, the agriculture experts, transport experts, for us to be able to work together as a team to get these accolades that I've just indicated. In fact, to mention also that in the same year, 2012, in terms of good human relations practice, we were noticed by the Ministry of Agriculture. We usually had yearly congregations where companies would be given to say some congratulatory tag for either being perfect or good in audit. For that year, Nzoia Sugar was singled out as having wonderful human resource practices, and we were given that accolade. So to be able to attain high production, a production that had never been attained by the company before, it required skills to steer managers you have hardly worked with for a long time, to be able to see your vision and agree that you can work together for the betterment of the company. I think I can harness those skills that brought all these managers together for us to make the gains and achievements that we did at Nzoia Sugar Company. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members.
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, you made 71,000 metric tons in 2012, you said?
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
So was this out of the existing cane, or it was cane poaching? Because I noticed that this is the same time that Mumias was going down.
Mr. Chairman, something else perhaps I didn't point out. There was never any cane poaching by Nzoia Sugar. If anything, the cane that was poached during that period was ours. And through, again, my collaborative efforts with the managers in agriculture, we managed to develop a lot of cane, and we had excess. In fact, we were giving out cane to Mumias Sugar, Botali Sugar Company, and West Kenya because of the excess cane that we had developed during my period. And even up to the time I left in 2015, we had sufficient cane for milling.
Congratulations. I want to ask Linda to ask you some questions. Madam Linda, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Now, Mr. Simiyu, I've heard you say that while at Nzoia Sugar, you had to harness some skills that were important to help you in executing your mandate. Now, are you able to tell this panel which skills are those that you harnessed while at Nzoia Sugar? And that which could help you execute your mandate as a chairperson of IEBC.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. The ability to identify these specialized skills each officer has, the ability to sit them down and be able to exploit whatever each one of us was able to bring to the table. Much as there was a little bit of misgiving, like I said, I was a kind of an outsider coming from the legal profession, and indeed the whispers were that a lawyer can't run a huge manufacturing concern. My ability to harness their different skills, my ability to identify that all of us can do, and alone you can't do much. That is what I intend to bring to the IEBC. And I know that IEBC has a large pool of well-qualified persons. There must be lawyers, there must be finance specialists, with whom, if the approach is right, the approach that recognizes the value of each and every one of us, the value that we need to work together, that together we are better than one, then we shall be able to steer through some of the problems that have beset the IEBC.
And what competencies do you believe are essential for the chairperson to be able to execute his mandate?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. IEBC has a large pool of stakeholders. We have the main one, the political parties that certainly must be recognized. They are the political leaders, they are the other stakeholders that we have to deal with them in terms of supplies, the media, and unless you are able to give them sufficient recognition, unless you are able to understand that all of us are fighting one common cause, and unless we are transparent in the manner in which we execute this mandate, together with knowledge spilling over to all the stakeholders in equal measure, then we stand the chance of perhaps being accused of being favoring particular sides, favoring particular political dispensations. That should not happen. What we need to do is to move forward together with all the stakeholders, bring them together, and have one vision together as we move towards ensuring that we have an election that is credible.
So, in your career journey, do you have any particular instance where pressure was put upon yourself in execution of your mandate in whatever capacity that tested your leadership skills and you came out strongly? If there is, could you like to share that with this panel?
Somewhere around 2011 or 2010, I can't recall exactly, I was in Nairobi on official duty, and I was told that there had been a breakdown in the powerhouse of Nzoia Sugar Company. That was a major breakdown because the factory had to stop. So I quickly consulted the chairman, I rushed back to the company, and after consultations, we agreed to quickly summon the board, because what had happened, there is a machine called the continuous vertical crystallizer that stores the excess material, because the factory we were running was a bit old. So that excess material has to go to that machine called the VCC, which was a huge piece of equipment so that it can store that material and then process it later on, so that we ensure that all the sugar has been extracted. Now, when the breakdown occurred, a lot of that material went to waste. And subsequently, of course, following the investigations that were done, when this happened, I think some staff who were manning a very, very delicate place called the Bauhaus, I think were excited to go and watch and see what had happened, and therefore that led to the breakdown in the turbine of the powerhouse that led to the stoppage for about 3 weeks. Now, of course, we had to undertake investigations as a board. The chairman summoned the board, and it was agreed that a responsibility be assigned. I think after the investigations, some officers were censored and I think dismissed. The people I had worked with, and every time you think something has happened as a result of an accident, you think you want to forgive, but of course the decision was collective. They were sent away. I felt it for them, but again, it had to be done. And of course, the board was able to convince the ministry to allow us to draw funds, which were in excess of 150 million, to import other machinery from India and fix the breakdown in the Bauhaus, which was done, and that cost a stoppage of about 19 days. In government circles, I think that was quite some tremendous loss. But I was able to, with the help of the board, steer through the crisis. We resumed operation after about 19 days, and yes, some people went away. It was sad for them to go away for something that really was not deliberate, but that's something that I thought was fairly challenging for me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Simiyu. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Linda. Now I would like to ask Carol Kituku to also engage the candidate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon once more, Wakili, and welcome. I would like us to have a conversation on the party nomination process. Under what mandate do parties in Kenya do nomination?
Yes, parties do. I do not know whether you're asking about the nomination lists or the nomination lists. Yes, in our election dispensation, there are certain realizations that have come that we need to be sensitive to the manner in which positions of leadership are distributed. And therefore, parties are given the privilege in the Constitution to nominate some members outside the elected ones to fill those positions that are meant to cushion against the 2/3 requirement in public service. Now, for Parliament, for instance, there are the 12 nomination positions, and which are, I think the parties are given to present those nomination lists prior to the election. And depending on how the party fares in the election, the distribution of the nomination seats will be in accordance with how they are fared proportionally. That also applies to distribution of the nomination seats in the county assemblies under Article 177. And of course, that nomination mandate also has to take care of the requirement that the marginalized groups have to be considered, women have to be considered, the disabled, and the youth.
The law deemed it important that the party provide their nomination list, or what we call the party list, way before the declaration of results, or before the voting and the polling and the results. Why do you think this was necessary? Given our history, our electoral history?
The process of election is fairly sensitive. You find a situation where we do not easily accept results of the engagement we have in our political affairs. So the requirement that this list be submitted in advance, in my view, are meant to ensure that any disputes that may arise, because obviously the issue about determining who is able differently, the issue of determining issues of people who are marginalized would be contentious. And if they're contentious, the earlier we start the process and listen to these disputes and resolve them before the elections, the better, because then we have little disruption in terms of the programs for the elections.
Okay, so there have been allegations in the time past that most of the political parties tamper with the party list as was made before the elections. So why do you think that is so, particularly for the special seats?
Sometimes, for me, it is just the issue of discipline. Sometimes it's lacking. the feeling that so and so perhaps is a better friend who would give more votes, and therefore I do not think there is any real reason why they should tamper, except for perhaps just some self-interest, that I didn't cater for a friend, we didn't cater for this particular region. Those are excuses that can be used, because the moment they sit to determine these party lists, I believe sufficient consideration would have gone into, but sometimes I think we're not sincere about ourselves, about the decisions we've made, because of maybe other ulterior considerations that come subsequent to the decision to nominate.
Yeah. So, are there any legal reasons or grounds that exist that actually mandate parties to change their allocation for the special seats? Are there scenarios that can enable parties to do that within the legal framework?
In my view, they can. For instance, if any of the persons who have been earmarked for that nomination, and perhaps from the manner in which the list has been presented is the one likely to maybe land the seat of the marginalized or women or youths, he dies. If that happens, then obviously that is a reason that would be a good reason for seeking to change the list of the nominees.
It's on the reason, circumstances, any more?
Somebody can possibly choose to change party allegiances, and really there would be no reason to maintain that particular person on the list. And I think it will be a genuine reason that can advance a requirement to change the lists that have been submitted.
So let's move on to another area, which is technology. You know, the future, we are told, is IT. Technology is the future. So if you become the chairperson of the IEBC, should you be successful, which areas of the electoral system do you see amenable to technology outside the already existing areas that technology has taken into account? Any other area you think can be benefited from use of technology?
I want to insist on moderation on the technology that has been used. But before I do that, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, if I could just quote something that came out of the regular report, where Justice Grigla commented that the sooner the political elite realized that the cycle of violence, the cycle of unresolved election disputes will not leave us until unmitigated efforts are taken to plant some sense of integrity in our system are taken. That was after the 2007 elections. That if no serious concerted measures are taken, then moving forward, the cycle of violence, the cycle of rigging, vote stuffing would continue. That has continued. It happened in 2012. 2017, same scenario recurred, and even in 2022, that scenario recurred. There have been persistent complaints about verifiability of the election. Now, in terms of improvements that I think ought to be made on the technology deployed, my view is that I would insist from the technology team that exists within IEBC, or if it doesn't exist, if the brand of people we think ought to do it don't exist, pull them out from the the many companies that are able to provide this technology, so that as we prepare for the elections, we virtualize every one of the 1,450 wards and dedicate a machine for each ward, and all of them ought to be based at the tallying center, the National Tallying Center. Now, in every polling station, whatever reports are coming out will be wired directly to the National Tallying Center in the machine that is dedicated for that particular ward. And this is how it will start. We ensure that as soon as the elections are closed, we take the tabulation of all people who have voted for the counting. And in every polling station, those figures are through a special gadget sent to the National Tallying Center in the computer that is dedicated to that particular ward.
So, Mr. Asiro, without looking like I'm interrupting you,
Yes.
I think that is currently what is happening. So we are looking at, outside what is existing right now, what else can technology help solve to bring in the credibility of the elections process?
Through the chair, I plead that I be listened to on this one, because we've not in the past insisted that we take the tally of all the people who have voted as soon as voting closes. What usually happens is that we take the list, the people who have been counted. What I'm starting with is that as soon as voting closes, we know the number of people who have cast their votes. Whether they're spoiled, whether they're good votes, we take that whole number and wire it to the computer that is dedicated to that particular ward. After that, once the counting has been done, we take the number of those who have been counted in that polling station again, and they're wired to the same polling, the same virtual computer for that particular ward, so that all the 1450 wards, all the 1450 virtual computers will receive results from the specific wards they're representing. After that, once the counting is done, then the counted votes, an image is taken also and wired to the dedicated portals. And then the technology that will be best suited for this is satellite technology, where we would avoid a lot of failures like has happened with Safaricom and others, where particularly in remote areas, it's difficult to get that information wired to the tallying center. If we use satellite communication, and I think Starlight is one case in focus here, then once we have received that information, what the chairman has and the commissioners have is that apart from the votes that have been counted, there is one other standard that they can use in terms of verification, that standard of votes that were cast in each of the polling stations. I hope I'm clear.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I wish you the best. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. We now invite Dr. Koki Muli to also ask you some questions.
Good afternoon, Wakili.
Good afternoon.
And welcome again.
Thank you.
To this dialogue. When was the first election held after the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution?
2013?
When? What date?
Oh, I can't have the dates, but I know it was in 2013.
Thank you. Wakili, you know that the election day is a very important day and a very critical stage of the electoral cycle. can you tell the panel what activities take place during the election day and from what time?
Polling usually starts at 6 a.m. Throughout the country, unless, of course, the vagaries of the weather, issues of transport lead to a delay, and in which event there'll be compensation at the end of the day. And as at that stage, officers of the IEBC would have set the stage. They have the machines for ensuring that the voters are identified, the register is there, and as soon as they open, then people come in, they're identified, they're given the ballot papers, they mark them, and depending on the, of course, right now I think there are about 6 positions, elective positions, then they mark them and drop them in the respective ballot boxes. After the voting has been done, that's at the end of the day, the station closes, as is the practice nowadays, and then, of course, the counting is done at the polling station. Once that is done, the results, those of the presidential election, are I think, filled in Form 34A and transmitted to the National Tallying Center. The results of the county governor, the county women rep, the results of the county senator, are, I think, counted and declared at the county tallying center. The results of civic leaders in the past, now they're going ward reps, called ward reps, are declared within their respective wards.
Okay. Is there any announcement of results at the polling station?
Results are not, so to speak, really, once voting has been done, there, of course, party officials, they have their representatives. Once the returning officer has finished the counting, the officers will have to sign them. And therefore, at that stage, the results for each candidate are announced at that stage, including what has been tallied for the presidential vote. I think they're announced at that stage before they're transmitted to the respective quarters.
Thank you very much. Would you like to tell the panel and those Kenyans watching you which are those respective quarters where the results, the different results of the 6 elections are transmitted to?
There is the constituency tallying center where the results of the area member of parliament are supposed to be taken, tallied, and declared. The results of the ward representatives are similarly taken to the county tallying center and are declared. The results of the governor and the senator are also declared at the county tallying center, but the presidential results are declared at the national tallying center. But after all parties that are represented in the election, that is, the agents have signed and certified that indeed that's the record of what was counted.
Where are the results of the women rep taken?
Don't take this as my inability to appreciate that they are a major component of our life and our elections. They are also declared at the county tallying center. Sorry, I just overlooked that, not deliberately.
No worries, that's okay, Wakili. During the election day, there are specific duties assigned to the chair of the commission and the members of the commission. Since you wish to become the chair of the IEBC, so if you are successful, what functions or what role would you be playing on the election day?
My view is that On the election day, the chairman has, together with the commissioners, sit together at the National Tallying Center to receive the results. They may not count them personally or physically, but through staff. Once the results have been counted, it is for them to have a conference and agree that these are the correct results, and then authorize the chairman to announce the results. But of course, we also know that the chairman has power. From the recent decisions, I think the decision in the 2022 election petition, because usually you would find disagreements, and disagreeing is normal. Maybe going out there to vilify each other is where the problem could be, but inside your own caucus, where you are sitting to make a decision, you can disagree and then by a majority decide that this is the direction we're going to go. But the ultimate announcement ought to be made by the chairman of the IEBC.
So besides announcing the results of the elections, as you say, and after receiving them, what else? The entire day, from morning to evening of the election day?
Obviously, the results, like in the past, keep trickling in, but my suggestion was that, like I was suggesting, if we can have them wired to dedicated virtual machines for each of the 1450 wards, it will be faster. But as I said, during the day, I think results keep trickling in. There will be disputes. There will be issues about just monitoring what's happening, and I think giving information to the stakeholders, because the moment you don't give information and perhaps there are delays here and there, then I think that brews the suspicion that brings about problems. But they must be engaged to consult with whoever wants to consult with them as the results are being tabulated and aggregated, and give periodic broadcasts of what is happening, and when, for instance, they expect to give a final tally of the results.
Thank you. Just two more small questions. You keep on saying that results are relayed from 1450 wards. Are those where the election is conducted or where the election are tallied? What is the 1450 and which results are those that come from there?
The 1450, Mr. Chairman, 1450 are the wards in this country. They count throughout the Republic of Kenya. For
what results are coming from the 1450?
There are both results for the ward representatives, the women rep, the member of parliament, presidential vote, the senator, all the elective positions.
Thank you very much. Lastly, what do you think, how long do you think when you become the chairperson of the IEBC, how long do you think is reasonable to have the declaration of all the election results in Kenya after elections? How many hours do you think we should declare? Because you said that the polling station closed around 5 p.m. If they are counting between 700 and 1,000 votes, they should be finished within, let's say, at worst, maybe 7 or 8 p.m. So from that period, how many hours do you think it should take with all the technology we have, with everything that IEBC is aspiring to be, and with the transformation that you have told us here you will do when you become the chair, if you're successful? What should we expect from you to announce? What time should we expect the announcement of results to be?
Thank you for that question. Let me start by saying this, that the problem in the past has been that we take a long time to announce results. And this is basically because sometimes we are relying on technology that will fail because we're using one dedicated line to transmit all results to the tallying center. There'll be jams along the way. There'll be gridlocks along the way. That's why I'm having this proposal that instead of using one line of communication to relay results from every part of this country, let's have a dedicated virtual machine for each ward. And that way we avoid the gridlock, we avoid the jam, so that results are released faster. And if that becomes the case, then if polls close at 5 o'clock, or if there's been an extension, they go on up to about 6 or 7 o'clock, I expect that if these measures are put in place, we should have all the results at the National Tallying Center by about 9 o'clock. And the beauty of having to relay these results directly from the ward, from the 1450 wards, is that you do not give people reason to start being imaginative. They become imaginative when you have given them a chance to stay with those results as they count them. That's why I propose that whatever votes have been voted, you do not wait until the counting is done. Let's release first the raw figures of how many people have voted. That is a check in the sense that if anybody wants to bring in more results, at the end of the day, when you're at the tallying center, we'll say, but the initial results we received were that there are only 400 voters here. How come now you have 500? That is a very, very, very good check. So for me, if this is implemented, then by about 10, 11 o'clock, we should have all the results of the tallying center. Depending on the deliberations that the commissioners have, before the end of the night, the results ought to have been announced. We can't take the 7 days that we've taken in the past.
Thank you very much, Senior Wakili. Thank you very much, Chair.
Just to ask, is the 1450 center of relaying results something you are proposing, or this is what is happening?
Mr. Chairman, it is initially I was asked what reform measure would you want to come up with in terms of result transmission, and that's why I said that if we get a dedicated machine for every ward,
Okay.
we will release the results faster, relay the results faster to the tallying center. It's what I'm proposing as a reform measure, not what exists at the moment, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I was actually assuming that that's what exists. If you don't mind, what exists at the moment? That's the first question I was asking you, actually.
At the moment, the results are all released using one dedicated line. They are not results from each ward being released to a dedicated machine for that particular ward. And therefore, more delays come, like happens now. We're using one dedicated line, and there's a gridlock, and there's a jam, so it takes a long time to have one person get through to relay his results. That's what is happening at the moment.
Okay, thank you. I want to ask FCP Tanui to ask you some questions.
Bwana Wasilwa,
Yes, sir.
when you are introducing yourself, you said, what are you currently engaged in?
I'm practicing advocate.
In which law firm?
The firm is called BS Advocates at the moment.
Do you have a practicing license for 2025?
We have applied. We're waiting for it to be submitted. We have up to 31st of March to get the certificate, and I believe I'll have it because we've applied.
So as of now, you're practicing without one?
Well, like I said, Mr. Chairman, usually at the end of the year, the financial year, we have to get an accountant certificate. Once you get the certificate, then you put together all your papers and send them to the Law Society. And we have a grace period up to 31st March to get the practicing certificate.
Okay. I've also seen that you're a member of Chartered Institute of certified secretaries, actually, Institute of Certified Secretaries.
Yes.
And the status is that you have outstanding dues and insufficient CPDs.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that is true. I do not practice as a certified public secretary for a long time, and as a human being, sometimes you could easily have something delayed. In fact, I've been in communication with them. I have fees of 12,500, which I ought to pay, and I'm going to pay so that I make my record clean.
Why
I'm aware of that.
why I'm specific on that one is that you are a company secretary for Nzoia before you became the MD, isn't it?
Yes, I was.
And that is what led you to who you are in terms of your career growth. And you would be of, how would I put it? That should be it's what built you. It's what made you the CEO. You are the CS. And for purposes of governance and corporate governance, that is a profession of governance that you are exhibiting while you are the managing director.
I did not exhibit that. I never at any time had any lapse in terms of delay in paying. I was up to date throughout the period. I was company secretary and managing director.
Okay. Now, related...
Just before you move on,
Yeah, okay.
I needed to clarify about his practicing license for his advocacy role. I didn't understand what he said. About 31st or something?
31st
What do you mean?
Chairman, what I was saying was that at the end of the financial year, 31st December, that is when you get the accountant certificate. The accountant has to go through your books and confirm that you've kept your books well, the client's accounts are properly kept. That is one of the mandatory documents that must be submitted to the Law Society when you apply for a practicing certificate. And we usually have a grace period of up to 31st March to pay and obtain that certificate.
Okay, Caro?
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Silo, I hear you saying that you have applied for the practicing certificate. Do you have that evidence, the receipt for payment?
I haven't carried that, but
Okay.
given time, I'll provide.
The Advocates Act stipulates that a practicing certificate is valid for 1 year. And it's very clear, it's valid from the 1st of January to the 31st of December. And the grace period normally it is not that long. When did you apply for the practicing certificate?
It must have been early this month, and I'm sure I'll have it before 31st of March.
Okay.
I'll provide it even to this committee if necessary. The grace period is up to 31st March, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Council Member Linda, please.
Allow me to comment, Chair. Mr. Simiyu, that is not the position. You know, all the lawyers in this room know that the grace period is up to January 31st. You ought to have applied for your PC before January 31st. That is the only time you have for grace period. Anything thereafter, if you have not applied for your PC before January 31st, it means you're practicing without a license.
Well, once you've paid, I believe, you've asked that I provide the payment receipt, then you are good to go. And I believe I'll have, I don't know what Madam says about 31st January, but I know that even in the past, it is something worth checking, but the period has been up to 31st of March.
What that means, Mr. Simiyu, is that if you apply in March, you will not get a practicing certificate from January. You will get a practicing certificate from the time which you apply, and it will be dated the month of March. That legally means that the whole of January, the whole of February, you were practicing without a PC, which is irregular?
Well, sometimes we make these inquiries and we're told that once you've paid for it, you're good to go. And this is what we've done in the practice. Sorry, I think it may be something that we need to check again, but that's what we've done, how we've practiced.
But you have your practicing license for 2024?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. It's even one of the documents that I carried. I attached on the affidavit that had been filed by somebody.
Okay.
I have the certificate.
Okay, can we proceed?
I can proceed.
Yeah.
So why I raise that issue is corporate governance is a very important issue, and more so if you want to chair such a commission like the IEBC. And I was keen on your certification as a corporate secretary or company secretary, having been one yourself. Now, one of the key features or one of the instruments of good corporate governance is an audit committee. And I would expect that during your tenure as the CEO of Nzoia Sugar Company, you must have had one. But now it's a legal requirement under the PFM Act that all commissions, including IEBC or IEBC included, should establish an audit committee. Why was it necessary to legislate the establishment of audit committees, more so in bodies like Constitutional Commission?
I think, Mr. Chairman, issues of financial impropriety are, have been rampant. I think they are cited even in this commission. I think audits are flagging certain issues that need to be addressed. And the Public Finance Management Act also provides strict requirements in terms of the responsibility placed on public officers, so that once the coming into place of an audit committee is really meant to help the institution in terms of fidelity to propriety in financial management. And I think that may be the reason why it was made necessary that institutions have audit committees. We had an audit committee in Zoia when I worked there.
So is it something that as a chair, or what value will it be to you as a chair of IEBC if confirmed?
The audit committee gives you internal assurance that things are running well, because the committee is supposed to be independent in the manner in which it operates. They don't report to the CEO, like in this case, the secretary to the board, for obvious reasons that maybe he's the one who is being audited. They have some dotted line where they report directly to the board. And if there are any issues that are going on below, under the table that maybe the CEO may not want to disclose, those would be disclosed in the audit committee, and I think can be sorted out before they're escalated out to the National Audit Office. I think it is very useful for the Commission to have that audit committee, because then it raises the red flags, and the early warnings come from the internal auditor, who would say that if we continue like this, this is bound to be a problem. I think it is a very necessary committee for operations of this institution.
Thank you. And my last question is that you will be joining, if confirmed or if appointed, you will be joining a commission where you as a chair and the other 6 commissioners will be new. There is already an existing secretariat in place and technical officers. So how will you, as a chair, be able to work together with the new commissioners, at the same time ensure that the secretariat that are there are able to support you in the process without having any issue of infights, conflicts, and create cohesion and harmony within the commission?
I believe that conflicts would arise only because perhaps we are nursing egos of personal interest, because I believe that the Secretariat has specific roles in terms of administration, and the Commissioner's role is oversight, policy, and guidance. That's when I think the issue of governance becomes handy. I think you take it seriously from your expression. There ought to be a delineation between what the Secretariat does and what the Commission does in terms of policy. But I also know that the chairman of the IEBC has kind of executive power, so that maybe if that is led to persist, it may bring about the kind of conflicts that are perhaps became apparent during the tenure of the late Chepkati, may God rest his soul in peace, together with Mr. Chiloba, so that in fact it led to one of the officers going. So that is something that must be addressed immediately if indeed the chairman has any executive powers. Those powers should be left for, the powers of execution should be left to the Secretariat, with the CEO being the secretary of the commission, and let the commissioners remain up there for giving direction and guidance. If we stick to that role, then I wouldn't see any situation where there will be a conflict, say, look, the delays in procurement of this gadget has been as a result of the failure by the chairman to approve this, to refuse to sign this. Let the Secretariat be given powers to do what they ought to do, and let the Commission remain at that respected level of merely giving guidance, policy guidance. If there is any aberration that is noted on the part of the Secretariat, I think the committee, the Commission has powers to take appropriate action, but it should not delve into actual work of administration. That should be left to the Secretariat. And if there is any lacuna in the law, that is then something that must be addressed in the first instance when the new commission takes over.
So, Bwana now what will you be doing 8 to 5, Monday to Friday, and because you are full-time commissioners? You as a chair is full-time, the 6 commissioners are full-time. So what will you be doing? 8 to 5, Monday to Friday, January to December for 6 years, if you are just oversighting and staying up there?
I think the commission is what I would say more or less of a hybrid, in the sense that the work of the commission is so extensive touching citizens from all corners of this country. That being the case, I do not subscribe to the view that there will be nothing to do if we are left at policy level. There are issues, for instance, of reviewing what management has done and the Secretariat has done in committees. And I know that most of the work of the IEBC is done through specialized committees. I believe there is an audit committee, the legal committee. And on all those committees, I believe there is a commissioner who is supposed to sit on them. If I was to take that, my previous experience. And so when they sit on those committees, I think there are issues that will arise at every given time that I think the commission will address, the commissioners will address, and not assume to just sit for six years without doing anything. Because matters that are done by the Secretariat must necessarily get the approval of the Commission before the implementation is done. Reports must be made, escalated to the Commission before implementation is done. So I believe that there is work to be done, and done even on that daily basis. But if that would entail moving into a conundrum where you are now doing, the Commission is now doing work that is supposed to be done by the Secretariat, then I think at that stage, it has not happened yet. At that stage, then perhaps somebody can start thinking about seeing whether commissioners should work part-time. But knowing the problems that the Commission has, knowing the limited time that it has, for instance, for organizing the next election, I believe that a full-time occupation for the commissioners is necessary at this stage. But if, for any reason, there is a reason to believe that perhaps they're being paid for not so much work that is being done, then I think policy should shift. And we said now I think we sit as on a part-time basis.
Wish you well. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, before I come to you, Madam Linda, please.
Thank you, Chair. Now, Mr. Simiyu, I would like to take you back to the matter of the PC, because part of our work as a panel is to ensure that we have a very honest chairperson who will be able to give Kenyans transparent and accountable elections. And also to caution you that there are several lawyers in this panel, and therefore the questions that I ask, kindly be honest about them. So you say that you have applied for your PC for this year.
I say so, Mr. Chairman.
Do you have any CPD points for the year 2024?
Yeah, I'll have to check, but I've attended some of the programs.
Did you attend any CPD seminars or
Yes.
webinars last year?
Yes, I did.
Have you checked your portal this year?
At the time I applied because I satisfied that requirement of the CPD points.
You are aware that even as we sit here, we can be able to get into your portal and check whether you have your CPD points for
Yes.
last year.
Yes.
Will you be surprised to know that last year you have 0 CPD points and you require 5 CPD points to be able to apply for your PC for this year?
That will surprise me because I attended those programs.
Are you aware that the LSK portal that you use to apply for your PC is an automated system which will not give you an invoice unless you have 5 CPD points for 2024?
Mr. Chairman, like I said, I have applied, and the only reason I applied is because I was satisfied that I had the points.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Linda. And now I'll go to Evans Misati to pick up from there.
Thanks so much, Chair. Mr. Simiyu, I'm sure you are aware we are doing this because we are doing it on behalf of Kenyans. the position of the IEBC chair needs a lot of public scrutiny. So don't be surprised what is happening. Now, I want to take you back to where you said you have been in leadership positions or in charge of institutions. Have you had any experience working with a highly technical secretariat before? And how did you balance the effective oversight without micromanaging either the secretariat or the staff, if you have had any experience? Because you have said you have been in managing director, CEO, or something of that kind.
Where I worked as managing director, I was the one in charge of the team to execute. So really, I would delve in and understand what managers were doing and guide them. I was sitting on the board as a secretary, but my actual mandate was to be the manager. I'm the one who liaises between the management and the board and to report what is happening on the day-to-day management of the affairs of the company. That was my responsibility. So really, the issue of conflict would not arise at that stage because I was the one that was responsible for the management of the company.
Yes. Now let me ask you another question related to the party agents. You know, if you're going to conduct elections in 2027, you are aware that candidates will be able to have agents. From your understanding, what are the challenges you can cite that are facing the issue of party agents, given that you know these are the witnesses, as you are the delivery, these are the witnesses who witness on behalf of the candidates. So are you seeing any challenges with the issue of agents, and what are the measures to mitigate any of those challenges?
The problem of party agents and the nature of our engagement with them, I'm afraid in some parts of this country, it is purely who can pay what he can pay. Sometimes they're not very honest. We have heard stories of a party that has gone to an election and they didn't have any agents, even when they had accredited agents to the IEBC. So it is all a question of what we want our elections to give us. It is all about the education we can give our people to understand that that 200 shillings you're being given to sabotage an election will not help you. You are better off doing the honest job so that you get the leaders that would come into position to help you improve your lot. But unfortunately, the problem we have is that sometimes they put money matters, and that you can easily, just crudely put by the agents and have them do nothing even when they're there, as you do anything. So the issue of party agents, I think we need a lot of civic education. We need to make them understand that it is a solemn responsibility for their country to ensure that a fair election takes place, and that it behoves them to do that they can do, to ensure that they represent the interests they have been put there to represent. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen. So I think we need a lot of civic education for the agents.
So apart from the money and the training, so what will you propose as we move, apart from that training, as we move? If you are the chair of IEBC today, you have a meeting maybe with the stakeholders, the political parties, what will you propose to the candidates in regard to the agents?
The problem is, let me start like this. The biggest problem we have in this country is competition for elective positions. We think guarantees the goodies to come on my side, in my house, to my tribe, to my county. That competition is what breeds problems. It's not even this agent. Because, like you would recall maybe 2 or 7 elections, I think it's the worst scene that you can ever experience, where the chairman of the commission says, I don't know what is happening, I don't know what's cooking, maybe the results are being cooked. So that this competition for the prize, that's the presidency, is what percolates down to even agents to want to behave like, so what, so and so give me 10 shillings, you give me 20, I can even switch allegiance. And for me, the cure for this is that I was thinking I would propose, if I were privileged to sit in this commission, that maybe we look for a real shift in the manner in which we do our politics. The 2010 Constitution brought some benefit in the sense that the evolution has dissipated some of the fire that usually exists when people think getting the presidency will give them everything they require. So that some fruits have been taken to the counties. Can we think, for instance, of, and I think that has been touted before, a rotational presidency? Or can we give more power to the counties so that...
Sorry, we are diversing now. Okay. We want to talk about the issue of agents and the solutions you are proposing as a chair of IP. Way of looking at it, maybe in terms of improving the systems of voting, or and other things. Maybe if we can have IT, electronic systems, so which does not need the agents, the manual. So let me go to my last question.
Can you comment on that?
You want to comment on that?
Just to clarify what I was saying.
Yes.
That if the mindset can't be changed, and you're choosing to work on the agents to make them look like saints when all other players are doing things their own way, we will not get anywhere. That's what I was trying to say. I'm sorry.
Now, assuming you find favor with this panel and you are the chair of IEBC, what would be your priority action or things to do before the 2027 general elections? Just mention a few.
There's the issue of boundary delineation. I think that's the number one priority. The issue of the by-elections that are pending. People have been disenfranchised because of there not being this commission in place. But also, as a first step, I think we need, as a new team, to understand what our responsibilities are. You won't just move in and start going to Isebania to try and work on the boundaries. We'll need to get initially an understanding of the operations, the guiding principles, the guidelines in terms of how the commission operates. Once you have understood that, then of course, like I said, the immediate issues would be planning for the next election, the issue of delineation of boundaries, which is overdue, and I think constitutionally, I don't know, that something has to be done to get the mandate to go on with the exercise of delineation, because the 12 years are long gone. The 12 years the Constitution requires within which boundary delineation has to be done. So that is a priority. The by-elections are a priority. Just getting to understand what needs to be done so that this team can move forward as a team, again, that is a priority.
Thanks so much. I wish you well.
Mr. Asilwa, what will be involved in boundaries delimitation, if that was your priority before 2027?
I know that since the last exercise was done, I think more than 13 years ago, there has been population growth. And in terms of creating new entities for parliament, new entities for the wards, I think that is what it entails. That we look at the population, the population quota for the entire country, must understand what areas need to get additional boundaries, additional wards, additional constituencies based on the provisions of the Constitution which require utilization of a figure called quota, which is a proportion of the number of wards or the number of constituencies we have against the entire population of Kenya. Once that is determined for each area, then we would look at it in terms of the numbers of the people, the geographical reach, cultural issues that would require that the people want to remain together as one entity. So those are the issues that must be looked into in terms of the new population demographics.
And you think that this can be accomplished before the next elections as a chair?
That is a very a tall order, because the budget issues, I know some money has been asked for, but it is indeed a tall order.
Ms. Fatuma? Koki? No? Ms. Fatuma, please. Take over.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Simiu,
Yes.
generally, stakeholder engagement is expected to bring to fruition trust, buy-in, risk management, and so many other positive tenets. For instance, you become the chair IEBC, and you are faced with a situation where there are stakeholders who are hostile, who do not completely trust what you're doing, or just have a negative attitude towards working with you, working with the Commission generally. What would you do in such circumstances?
People who don't want to work.
For whatever reason, at times they could be because out of lack of trust, or maybe other vested interests. They just do not buy in and do not support what you're doing.
My initial submission was on the best way of creating that trust, where people will know that once an election is done, the system that has been installed is not subject to tampering. I've indicated we need a dedicated satellite system that will be used. Once they are convinced that a credible result will come.
I'm just saying, in this special circumstance,
Yes.
you find a stakeholder who's hostile. How do you address it?
For stakeholders, they are stakeholders. And they are stakeholders because, rather, we are there because of those stakeholders. And you must find a way of talking to them. If you can't talk to them, send a team to talk to them. If you can't have a team to talk to them, let the elders talk to them. But for God's sake, there's no way you are going to avoid any particular segment of the stakeholders, because then they're the ones who are going to explode tomorrow. If they come to the office screaming fire, you are responsible because you are in the office. You must face them. But if you don't think you will face them, because these things are going to occur unless some of these steps that we are talking about are taken, don't try to look for the job. But be there, face them, tell them this is what we're doing. Even if you're doing nothing, that of course, from their perspective, they think you're doing nothing, but at least you must be able to meet them and talk to them, listen to them, and find ways of addressing the issues there. Because, of course, they won't be unreasonable to just come and start a fire unless there's really something that they believe in. Like, for instance, when they believe somebody's stealing the election and they come and explode. So that constant communication, that constant engagement with them, and the ability to go before them and explain what is happening I think it is important. But if they have come now and they're breathing fire, I believe that you must just find a way of talking to them. You can't run away because that is your responsibility and somebody has to do it.
Supposing you are unsuccessful, how do you protect the Commission's functions and ensure that you're able to conduct the elections and the outcome is unaffected? If these stakeholders, if you're not successful in convincing a certain portion of the stakeholders.
That's what I'm saying, that every time we sit together and try to talk, I think we'll find a solution. I don't think there are stakeholders who would come and say, today, I must kill all the commissioners because they failed to do ABCD. Maybe it's because they don't have information. But once you give them information, I'm sure they'll mail it down and I think listen to reason. You can't close down the office. You can't stop the election. You must find a way of going on with the election. But of course, in situations where things become like we are not here talking about the headquarters, perhaps a particular electoral area where they have genuine grievances about something that you think indeed there is a reason for culpability, then I think the Commission has powers to stop an election if there are genuine grievances about their feeling that perhaps fairness will not come out of the election. You can stop the election. Yes, there are certain areas. I remember during the 2022 elections when I think parts of Kakamega elections were postponed for reasons that there was no guarantee that there will be safety, and I think they were held subsequently. So it's possible that you can stop the election for a while until conditions favorable for undertaking the election can be obtained.
Thank you. Now I want to ask Mr. Nicodemus Bore to ask his questions. Kindly, Nicodemus.
Thank you, Chairman. Saulo.
Yes, sir.
I think the reason why Kakamega elections were stopped in 2022 was because the ballot papers there was a mix-up of ballot papers, not because of any insecurity or anything else. That's the reason why Kakamega and Mombasa, there was some mishap on the ballot papers. And that's the reason.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, like I agree.
That's just an information.
What I was trying to say was that conditions may prevail that are inimical to holding a successful election, and they may not be necessarily about there being mixture of ballot papers. Any other reason, like extensive violence, can, I think, cause a postponement.
True. You served as the MD of Zoia Sugar.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
For how many years?
6 years.
And CS for how many years?
5 years.
So you served at the management level, the top management, for a period of over 11 years.
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
At the same time, you were still running the BS and Advocate Company?
No, I wasn't running it at that time. In fact, from 2004, I was running as Wasilo and Company Advocate, and I had relinquished that to somebody else. So when I stopped working, that's when I went to join into the partnership of BS Advocates.
Okay. So remember, the sugar sector in Kenya has faced persistent challenges, including financial mismanagement and low productivity of sugar and sugar cane, and the governance issues, and sometimes even farmers' discontent. So looking back on your tenure, do you have any specific successes that you can point out as your contribution to the industry as a whole?
I believe I mentioned them. One that stood out was the fact that when other companies had no cane, my collaboration, my coordination with my managers in agriculture had developed a lot of cane, both in the Outgrower Reach and the nucleus estate, but we never lacked cane while I was the managing director. And indeed, these issues of cane, lack of cane, came after about 2016 when I had left. But even when it was acute for other companies, Nzoia still had cane. So cane, as an issue, was we didn't have a problem with cane. Again, I mentioned that during my tenure, we had ISO certification. We were acclaimed as the best company in terms of HR management in 2012 by PS Kiome then. Then, of course, we had a break into a super brand and I think branded sugar. And, of course, the highest production ever since the company was incepted in 1978. And we made a profit for the first time. So those are, I think, the achievements.
Maybe for those of people who not understand the ISO certification, can you explain that a bit?
ISO is a process you go through over a period of time, midwifed by consultants. Like in the year, we were midwifed by Kenya Bureau of Standards, and where processes, production processes, for instance, marketing processes are mapped out so that we know that on this particular occasion, this is the way we will make sugar, and that when you compare our processes, when you compare our standards, they compare favorably using those standards with the other companies worldwide. And when you do that and you are certified, then it means your sugar can compete favorably in the world market, like sugars from any other jurisdictions that have better equipment, better ways of production. So that is where I took in the year that in the world market, it was a product that was sought after because of the organized manner in which the production was done.
So that means acquiring proper licenses and other documentations.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, like which license?
So does it, that means also acquiring proper licenses and documentation for the company?
Well, of course, there's the sugar production license that you had to procure, I think it cost $1 million from Kenya Sugar Board. But in terms of ISO, I think what we're looking for is the ability of your product to compete with other products of the same nature. And all we did by getting ISO certified was that we are convincing the world that our sugar is produced in such a clean environment, such a predictable environment, that it's as good as any sugar produced from the more developed sugar production areas.
The reason I'm asking this is because of the farm in which you run. From what we have seen and discussed here, you don't seem to have licenses to run your farm, yet you are able to have very good licenses to run Nzoia Sugar Company.
I think I've said that in my practice I've had licenses to practice. That wouldn't, again, compromise the fact of the production ISO certification merely because perhaps during 1 month I was not able to have this and that. I think that should be an isolated issue. But like I said, really, what you are raising cannot water down the fact that I got those achievements while I worked as the managing director.
The isolated case seems not to only affect you, it also affected your clients, because we have a memorandum or an affidavit sworn by one Professor Okumu Wafula, who is accusing you of not having a practicing license. Yes, you picked fees for defending him. Is there any information about that?
Chairman, I've been asked about 204, and I said I had a license. I've even annexed it on that document. I received the affidavit. It was sent to me by officers of the Secretariat. I did an affidavit in response, which I submitted, and it was acknowledged. And all I can say is that as an advocate, you give advice to a client. It may not be what he wants to hear. And the mere fact that the client doesn't want to hear your advice or to take your advice doesn't mean that you are incompetent. It may be a difference in opinion. It is not proof that you're incompetent. I only gave advice, and perhaps if the chairman allowed me, I would say amplify what is in the affidavit. But all I'm saying is this, that the situation was that he was going to be struck off the case, and the opponent be given rights to administer the estate of the deceased person if we didn't take the action we took, and the man was in the UK. So we took the step after talking to the other beneficiaries in the estate who agreed that instead of having this man take over the administration alone, let's include whoever is objecting to be part of the administration of the estate, and that's what I did. I did nothing wrong. I took the advice I thought was in the best interest of my client.
So the attached affidavit includes an attachment of from LSK, which indicates that Wasilwa Saul Simiu, number P105/1780/88, working at BMS Advocates, practicing year 2024, practicing status inactive.
That's true, Chairman. That document, I looked at it, but I have annexed the certificate of the practice certificate on my response for that particular year.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, Prof. Please take up.
Chair, even as I start my session, I might request the Secretariat, if at all they have the response from Wasilwa, if they can avail it to us, because the only thing I see in this file relating to a practicing certificate is for the year 2022. So if there's any other practicing certificate of 2024, the Secretariat. Do we have the affidavit? Yeah, just help me as I want to revisit this because, Wasilwa, you know that the position of chairman requires somebody of utmost integrity. Madam Caro has brought to my attention where you are replying affidavit is, and again the certificate that you have attached is for the year 2022. So you haven't answered Boris' question, because the certificate you have attached here, practicing certificate, is for 2022. Can you clarify where the 2024 one is?
Chairman, maybe the photocopier left out that, if that came from the system.
Do you have the original? We can use the original. We don't have to use a photocopy for a scanned one.
I don't have the original right here, but I attached the certificates for 2022, 2023, and 2024.
And you're saying that the LSK portal that has been printed as both the LSK Council with our Vice Chair and the LSK representative, Caroline, who have said here to you that we can enter that portal right now, and that's how this inactive status was ascertained. You are saying before us here that whatever was obtained from LSK portal is not true, and that Wasiliwa's photocopier, which missed the certificates of 2023 and 24, is the one which is true. That's what you're telling us.
It's not my copy, Mr. Chairman. I'm saying
No, wherever you copied.
whatever I sent to the commission had certificates for 2022, 23, and 24.
And you photocopied it from an original,
Yes.
which if you are given time, you can produce before us.
They're in the office. I can produce them.
Very well. Between February 1 and now, have you had active cases?
Yes, I have.
You can tell us some of them? It's very recent.
I do a number of cases for the...
No, just mention one, Offer. If you do a number of cases, as a lawyer, it wouldn't be difficult to just, even without having the case number, just tell us on this and this. That's the case I handle. Or I'm handling.
One of Winfried Dhiambo against Kenya Revenue Authority is pending for judgment. I think coming for judgment sometimes this month.
In which
The High Court in
jurisdiction?
Bungoma.
Thank you. Mr. Wasilwa, as chairperson of IEBC, which you have asked to be, your leadership will be judged by your personal integrity, honesty, and ability to uphold your word under pressure. Can you share with us a specific experience from your professional career where your honesty, word of honor, and consistency were put to test? How did you navigate the situation, and what was the outcome?
As a lawyer, you get, I've got instances when the opposite side wants to sit you down and compromise. One particular case was a criminal case where somebody was charged with a defilement. I am watching brief for the complainant. The girl was about 13 years old, and she was actually defiled, dropped out of school. She was pregnant, and somebody said that my continuing to act in the matter is inimical to his interests because he was likely to be jailed and he was an employee, that I should accept some amount of money and withdraw from the case, but I didn't withdraw from the case. Went on, he was convicted and sentenced. So I think those are instances that you meet when you practice law.
Just as my colleague Bori intimated to you, the sugar sector in Kenya has faced persistent challenges, including financial mismanagement, low productivity, governance issues, and farmer discontent. Looking back on your tenure, what lessons did you learn in navigating the challenges of the sugar sector, and how would those lessons shape your leadership approach if you are appointed chairperson of the IEBC?
The sugar industry is, sugar is sweet as a product, but sugar attracts very bitter politics around it. I pointed out when I began that when I was appointed managing director, questions were asked loudly whether a lawyer can manage a sugar factory. But I managed it for 6 years successfully. I insist that at the time I left, it was a going concern. It had money in the bank, staff were being paid, contractors had been paid in full. I had done annual maintenance, which usually takes anything upwards of 500 million shillings to do from the time I took over until the time I was leaving. So really, I did my best, but amidst the politics around the sugar industry. Sugar is the only product which has sugar barons, like drugs. And so it shows you how vitriolic it can be, how dangerous it can be to work in the sugar industry. But somebody has to do it, and I did it successfully. Thank God that I managed. But all I can assure you is that I managed to circumvent the politics around it because it was so political. I managed to pay farmers, and there were no complaints at the time when I was working as managing director. That record is there. The record of profit making in 2012 and the record production of 71,000 tons is there in the company's books. So really, yeah, I think I have sufficient resilience to withstand political tornadoes and run the institution I did.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. The sworn affidavit that Bore read was claiming about your lack of certificate in 2021 when you got the instructions. Did you have a practicing license for 2021?
Chairman, I had.
Okay. But the person who was going to court and representing your client was your partner, not yourself.
There were two cases. There was one for probate and administration. I think their father had died and they were doing succession. That is the one I handled. Then there was a criminal one where he was complaining that his brother had destroyed his crop of cultivated produce. That one is what was handled by my partner.
Okay, so his claims stand that you did not have a practicing license in 2021 because you didn't attach it in your response.
The period was, he had attached there is 2024, which I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, that I had the certificate. They didn't talk about 2021. If they did, I would have attached it also. Because I had.
Did you read the letter that invited you for the interview?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I did.
Did it ask you to bring your original certificates and testimonials?
I did. I brought them, Mr. Chairman.
And the practicing license is not one of those?
No, it wasn't requested for.
It's not a testimonial in this case?
Well, I thought testimonials are certificates, academic and professional certificates, which I attached. But in terms of what the person alleged, I attached the certificates for 2021, 2022, 23, and 24, because the period in question, according to him, was 2024.
Okay. Okay. Prof, you have some two questions, please.
Some two questions. Quick one. Manawasilo, you told us about if you are made chair, you told us one of your priorities will be to ensure that the by-elections that are pending where Kenyans are unrepresented, they should be conducted so that those Kenyans are represented. Name for us, since this is your priority, name for us any 3 constituencies or counties in the Republic of Kenya that are due for by-elections and the reason for the by-election in each.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have the ability to remember all of them, but I know that some cabinet secretaries have been appointed who are members of parliament. The case of Mheshimiwa Opiyo Andai is one. And I think there are a number of others, several civic seats which I think ought to be represented, but I cannot humanly remember them.
Very well. My last question is, which was the last country to join the East African community?
Must be DRC.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Wasilwa. It's been a great pleasure talking to you, learning from you and hearing from you. We are indeed grateful, as I said in the beginning, that you applied for this position and you were shortlisted for it, and you took your time, noting that you practice in Bungoma, so you must have traveled from Bungoma to be here. We don't take it for granted that you took this effort to want to serve Kenyans. I would like to invite you, just in case you have a question or a comment to make, please do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, the members of the panel, members of the Fourth Estate, I'm sure members of the public are here, those watching. Thank you for giving me the privilege of engaging with you. And I wish you Godspeed in finding suitable persons to run our institutions, and particularly this one that is really pivotal. It touches every Kenyan from Lokichogyo to Tanga, whatever, from the coast and northeastern and the Isebani. So it touches every soul. Whether they vote, whether they don't vote, they're affected by the actions of the IEBC. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Remember to pick your certificates. There's a bottle of water before you. You feel free to pick it. And if you have a notebook, you can still carry it with you. We appreciated your presence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Asante. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, members of the Fourth Estate, I think we will have a brief word to give to you in another 30 or so minutes. So if you allow us to finish what we are doing now, we will speak to you in a short while. Thank you.
Try not to look at me one kind. You know life to be beans and the number. And everybody getting your time. So when I know why you, the matter no be pass you.